What's going on, guys? Noobs here with another guide for SimCity 2000. Last time we left off, well, exactly what you see here. We'd saved up over $600 million and left our city fully flattened and eliminated all those pesky Sims just about. Actually, funnily enough, you can see a few rioters still here. And at this point, we just need to clear everything off this map, the pesky remaining rioters and fire, and then we can really start playing this thing for real. Now, all we've got at this point is this single military unit, which this is going to take forever if we're going to try to clear all this fire and the rioters and everything. I've got a bit of a trick for you guys. This is the kind of expert advice you want to come to me for. Boom, water, lower terrain. Not only are you going to get rid of all this fire quickly, but it very quickly gets rid of these rioters as well. Just sink them right into the ocean. So yeah, then you can come along, once you lowered some terrain, just use your level terrain. And you know what? Yeah, it's not the fastest thing in the world, but it's a whole lot faster than playing around with your single National Guard unit trying to take care of all this. Alright, so at this point you can see I have cleared everything up here, but there's still a long ways to go before we're really ready to play for real. Now, one thing I did not do with my original city was fix up this coastline to be nice and even. So that's one of the first things you're going to want to do here. So what we're really doing is we're preparing the map to play for real. And what that means is, as I received numerous comments about this on my previous SimCity video, when you're building your roads, designing the layout of your roads, zoned areas will develop up to 3 squares away from a road, okay? So the ideal layout is to have spaces, blocks, I guess you could say, of zoned areas that are 6 squares across, of course. Probably if you want to maximize for the least amount of roads possible, you would just have them going in one direction. But what we're going to aim for here today is something that goes beyond that. We are going to do a grid, okay, of 6 by 6 squares across the entire map. Unfortunately, guys, just the way the math works out, and I think because Will Wright personally hates me, the math doesn't quite work out with the number of squares they give you on the map. You're going to need to leave 1 space on 2 of the sides, okay? Not all 4 sides, just 2. And that'll allow you to build all those nice, perfect squares of 6 by 6 with roads running in between them. So what I'm doing right now is I'm just fixing up my coastline to make that possible. Perfect. Now, a few things remain here before we can actually start building. One thing that's easy to miss is if you switch over to your pipes. Oh no, we've still got, and it's a very strange thing, all of the pipes remaining from the city we destroyed. Not just the ones you built, mind you, but actually all the ones from all of the buildings that were there. It's very strange. You can burn your city to the ground, you can level terrain, all of that, and yet all of these pipes are gonna remain, and you want to just clean all this up. I mean, it's just not very pretty, is it? And what we're going for today is really like to just fully express our OCD. Just go all in on the OCD, and leaving this kind of stuff here just will not stand. So we're going to have to go ahead and clean all this up. Alright, once you've got all those pipes cleaned up, well then it's going to be time to start building your roads. Now, as I said, we're going to do a 6 by 6 grid. The easiest way to do this that I've found is to use something like the zones, just to give yourself a visual guide of how to space the roads. It can be easy to miscount if you're just laying down the roads themselves. So I find that if you do 3 by 3 grids with the zones and then leave a space, after 2 of them for the road. That'll give you a nice guideline to follow. And again, I mean, we're going to just end up de-zoning all of these before we start building. So yes, it is another expenditure, but we are going spared no expense with this city at this point. Alright, so once you've started zoning up, you can just start laying down your roads. Obviously the ones that go around the outside are pretty easy. Except for all the annoying error messages the game gives you. But anyways. Yeah, so you can just use this spacing here to guide how you put down your roads. Obviously, get them going in both directions. Very quickly move around using the arrow keys. I mean, imagine living in a city where everything is just a perfect grid. Everything looks exactly the same. Everything's symmetrical. Look, I'm sure as far as navigating the roads, it would be a dream. You'd never really wonder where you were you? Would you? As long as you could find your road signs. But at the same time, maybe it's just not a very exciting place to live. I don't know. And frankly, I don't care. Ultimately, this game is less about the quality of life of your Sims and more about the supposed quality of life of your Sims based on the stats the game gives you. The nice thing here is that once we've got this grid set up, what you're going to want to do is actually just save that as a template of sorts, because well, what I've been doing actually, I've actually been working ahead here, guys, experimenting with different layouts. And that's what this setup is going to allow you guys to do at home, okay? Because what you're going to be able to do is just have this perfect grid, no buildings, no zoning, tons of money, and then that is the canvas you're going to work from, okay? Where that's the point where you finally got things laid out just right, and then you can really get in there and tweak, okay? And maybe build your personal ideal city. And there we go. You can see I got right to the right to the edge, and looks like all the numbers worked out. So like some kind of TV chef, I've worked ahead and prepared the full grid ahead of time. Alright, as you can guys see, I finished the full grid. We've also got all the pipes cleared out, which is nice to see. I also went ahead and laid down some power lines. One other thing you can do, this is kind of up to personal preference, I guess, if you want to do this now or later. You might as well, though, come in here with your pipes at this point, and as long as you're hitting all these grids, you're good to go. One trick is you can kind of run them where the roads are. And then, see, if you turn the road view off, the roads will disappear. We're going to put all of our water back in this corner, though. So, as long as they're connecting back there, that's what the important thing is. So you can just do that. I mean, again, this is up to you. If you wanna, and let's face it, you're gonna want to do this because I want to do this. Get them running both directions so they line up with all the roads. Get the full grid in there. Wholly unnecessary. I think one thing that's important to acknowledge with this game is that fundamentally, it's not about having fun or being creative. Rather, it's about expressing your own obsessive compulsive tendencies, counting grid lines, laying things out in a symmetrical fashion, and just like doing things that you think you're going to be really satisfied about at the end of the day, but then finding you can't quite do what you want and just walking away in frustration. That, to me, is what SimCity 2000 is all about, and really what I aim to give you guys here today. Okay, so it looks like, yes, there we have it. Perfect grid with the water as well as the roads, and we've got the power lines down as well. So this is where you're going to want to make sure to save your city. This is your canvas. This is at the point in the game where you can actually play. Sort of. Certainly we're not going to change our speed from anything other than pause for a while. But you're going to actually build something that, you know, has some meaning in the game. So I did a whole bunch of testing here, and there's a few things you're going to want to do. And I mean, unfortunately, you're going to have to start messing up your grid a little bit. The grid, though, I mean, we set that up as like a guideline, and ultimately it is what we're going to follow here. You know, it's like you're making something on some graph paper, right? The grid line, that's the lines on the graph paper. One thing I worked, okay, yeah. I don't care. You know, they say the citizens are complaining. What citizens? But then you go over here, it's like, well, I guess, okay, see? Nobody lives in my city. So, I don't know. Anyways, during my numerous tests, what I found was that if you clear a 3x3 grid of, you know, of 6 space blocks, so in other words 9 blocks worth, and then turn that into an area for water pumps, that will be enough to sustain or satisfy the water demands of the entire city. As far as the pattern goes with these water pumps, or the exact number of water pumps, I'm not exactly clear. One thing you could probably do is like a spiral inwards. I'm doing like a radiating outwards here. And then, I mean, one thing as well is like this, each ring doesn't connect to the other, so that's gonna hurt you in terms of like you're not gonna be able to run water, power or water for that matter between them. So what you need to do is actually then come in here and connect these rings with additional pumps. Yeah, I'm just doing it at the corners. Again though, like, hey guys, it's your city, do what you want. This is one of these areas where you can have a bit of creativity, make different designs or whatever. Obviously, how could I forget? You're gonna want some water in here. This using the water tool, not like the lower terrain type of stuff. There's kind of 2 types of water in the game, and they're handled very differently in terms of like elevation levels and like appearance on the map and things. There's the water tool that gives you, you can have these just single little grid spaces of water, and then there's the actual like lower terrain, level terrain type of water, ocean water, river water. These don't count. I don't believe, in fact I'm quite confident you couldn't use this kind of water when you're building a seaport, for example. And speaking of seaport, that is the next step, folks, because you're always going to need a seaport and an airport. Now again with this, we're going to combine them in a sense, but the 2 of them together will take up another 3x3 grid, in other words a total of 9 blocks. Now this is a little annoying in terms of the seaport specifically, because that has very specific requirements to actually work correctly. You need, I believe, at least two kind of spaces down. You can't just work with this single elevation downwards into the water. You need 2. And then as well, you need, I believe it is a distance of 4 grid spaces away from, well, the edge of the map in order for the seaport to actually build properly. Yeah, it's real annoying. It really messes up the kind of the perfection of it all. But like, it's really important in terms of the development of your city. So yeah, you're kind of stuck building this. This is another thing where you have a bit of flexibility. And actually, you know what? Looking at this, why don't we actually build this all the way to the road line? There, perfect there. It's like I was saying before, right? I mean, sometimes you're going to end up destroying some of these roads, but ultimately, they're there as something to kind of lay your design on, right? Again, let's just carefully make sure here everything is nice and even. Oh, lost a bit of road there. Okay, that's perfect. And then with the airport, we're going to just have that kind of surrounding the space that you used to build your seaport. And both of these, I find, sometimes they don't quite fill in fully if you've got power lines running through the zoning. It's a little weird like that. So I just have the power lines, you know, running up to the road, the point in the road there, and then they'll fill themselves in. It's not a big deal. So airport around the outside, and then seaport along the water. Let's just, at this point, this is another point, don't save over what you already saved, kind of your original canvas, but this is another one where maybe you make a new save and then you just very briefly crank up the speed on development just to make sure these things fill in correctly. Although I need to stop myself there because nothing's going to fill in without some power plants. The design we're going to go for, I'm going to put these power plants in a nice design in the middle of the city. That's hard to actually visualize until you start filling out from the outside in though. So just as a little test, let's just to make sure this is going to fill in correctly, let's put one down here. Perfect. So you can see the airport fully filled in. So did the seaport. You can see if we hadn't built our water levels to these specifications, these docks would never have filled in, which can be very frustrating. You wouldn't have gotten anything except these little whatever warehouses, and that's not a really functioning seaport. So this is perfect. This is what we're looking for. And well, at this point, you can actually proceed with building the rest of your city.